Suzanne is an MA C.Med at Brain Jacks. She has a master's degree in conflict analysis management from Royal Roads University, a chartered mediator designation from Alternative Dispute Resolution Institute of Canada, otherwise known as ADRIC. Suzanne will blend street smarts experience and classroom education to share with you how to take charge of the tough talks. Suzanne, Petryshyn, everyone.
Thank you. Are we good to go? Perfect. Didn't think through the wardrobe and the microphone situation, so I had to step out and do that. Thank you very much to Dawn and to the conference committee inviting me out to come and share my big talk around taking charge of the tough talks today at this wonderful event. In listening to the other speakers, I was sitting and I was thinking of ways of the linkages with what I'm going to share. Everything from family to wills and estates, pensions, thinking of farming, and lastly with horses and just having conversations with those who we love where our behavior may affect the relationship or where we're going. So my big talk today starts with a personal story and really bringing it down, as all the speakers had shared, to the human level of the interactions that take place in the roles that we have, whether as a mediator, some of you have a law background, architecture, engineering, whatever it is, if you work with people, there's always that humanness that we take in the room with us. And if we work with people in conflict, there's always the opportunity for our own conflict systems to also emerge. So I'm going to share with you a personal story and then get into some of the theory about it. This talk is based on my book that's coming out shortly, Take Charge of the Tough Talks, and it's about the 7 truths of conflict and how we can manage it overall. So I had a conversation with my dad. He was born in 1930. He was raised in an agricultural family, and he moved into the world of oil and gas. And he had a number of Gulf, before Shell had taken over, Gulf service stations throughout Saskatchewan and Manitoba, mostly in Saskatchewan. He also had a garage. He was an expert negotiator and a very skilled businessman. My mom was born and raised in northern Saskatchewan, just as I was. She was 20 years younger than my dad, and they were both married when they met. They've given me permission over the years to share this story, because I always do anyway. My parents were both married when they met. My dad had 6 children, and my mom had 2. So my whole world growing up was about conflict and difficult conversations. And it always fascinated me and interested me in trying to understand why it's so hard for some of us, for something that seemed so natural for our family. We are one big happy family. I said we put the capital F-U-N in dysfunctional all the time, because we had, the ex-husband or the ex-wife would have us over, all the kids would be there, we'd all be getting along, and it was just, they really modeled to me the importance of communication and the family values and what was important to them. So the last conversation I had with my dad, he said, somebody's got to take charge. And the room fell totally silent. Somebody's got to take charge. And we all kind of looked at each other. So I stood up and I walked over to his bedside and I said, I'll take charge. And he looked at me with his icy blue eyes and he said, assuredly, you'll take charge? I said, yep, I'll take charge. And we held our gaze and we held hands, and he laid back and he put his head back on his pillow and he said, you're going to take charge? I said, I'll take charge. It's okay. And he said, oh, okay. And he closed his eyes, and that was the last conversation that I had with him. My father died on July 15th, 2009. Now, the 7 lessons that I learned from him in going through my schooling and working in mediation for 12 years and working with families and working with workplaces and having those really difficult conversations, I always relied on theory. And one of the models that I still use today in training is the force field analysis model from Kurt Lewin. How many of you have heard of it or used it? It's been around since 1943. It's one of the oldest and most used models. And basically, the model indicates that for every single conflict situation we have, there's a desired condition that we have. The gap for our happiness and solutions and resolutions lies between the desired state and the current condition. Force field analysis is based on synergy, on the energy that we have between us when we're working with people and we're coming up with problem situations that we need to resolve together. The driving forces are what motivate and inspire us to continue to want to move forward towards a solution. And the restraining forces are the barriers that get in our way. How we work through them and how we talk about them helps us to come up with the best solutions. Now, one of the things that my dad taught me, whenever I went to him with a problem, he'd always say, "It is what it is." And in thinking about Kurt Lewin's model and in thinking back on my practice, I would often say that to people who were in the heat of the moment. I'd say, well, it is what it is. Are we willing to move forward, or what are we going to do from here? Because we keep talking about the same thing, so what does it really mean? So really identifying the current condition helps to ground the parties in reality. The next truth my father would always say to me when I'd go to him with a big idea or a problem, or I'd say, I don't know how to figure this out, or I don't know if I should take this job, or I don't know if I should take this course in school, he'd say, does it make you happy? And connecting with people on that emotional level and asking that question of, this big decision that you're making about the future, about your pension, about the two parents who can't get along and make decisions to set those boundaries for those kids, whatever the case may be, does it make you happy? And taking time to stop to think about that helps to put everything in perspective, because then you're thinking of the desired state. So if I'm not happy in the current state, what's the desired state where I can find that happiness, or I could feel that happiness? Whenever I would fail, and my failures are many, looking back on my career, as I continue to forge forward with the dreams that I have, and the attainment of them, is my dad would always say, 1 foot in front of the other and don't look back. So when those restraining forces are in front of us and they seem so overwhelming, like we just can't possibly even continue to move forward, my dad would say, baby doll, 1 foot in front of the other. And don't look back. You're not going in that direction. So really thinking about those restraining forces when you're working with clients or parties, or thinking of your own solution finding that you desire in your own life, 1 foot in front of the other and don't look back. If you're moving towards that desired goal, keep going. Eat to live or live to eat. I love this one. Again, my dad was born in 1930, Doukhobor Russian family, agriculture family. Everything was about food. Everything was about food. He called my aunt, he called his mother, my babushka, he called them all serial killers, because all the men in their families by the time they were 35 at least had one heart attack, right? They'd make the borscht or the pierogies and there'd be this much butter on the top of it when it'd be sitting in the fridge after a few hours. So when you're looking at those driving forces, trimming the fat is really important, and being able to continue to move forward and to continue to strive to meet those goals. This is my favorite one. If you can wiggle, you can crawl. When you feel so overwhelmed, like there's nothing else that you can possibly do, and you fall down and you're laying there thinking, I can't possibly overcome everything I need to overcome, the one thing my dad always said is, Suzanne, can you wiggle? Because if you can wiggle, you can crawl. And if you can crawl, you can walk. And keep moving forward, keep striving. Lastly, everything has its place. The journey that we go through together in our human experience, through conflict, through finding solutions and working together, with each and every conversation we have, it's very important to stop and give thanks. It may not be what I signed up for. A lot of times when we have plans, life happens. But in honoring the journey, we honor the process. In that acknowledgement that each of us is human. And in our humanness, we might make mistakes. We might hurt feelings. We might make choices that we don't recognize affect many. The journey is essential. And in honoring and recognizing that journey, we're able to come up with the solutions that are important. Go easy on yourself in all of it. I added this one. He always would say that. When you're grounded in reality, clarity about the situation emerges. And he'd always say, go easy on yourself. You make a mistake, pick yourself up, move on, and just keep moving forward. My company is all about having those conversations and about providing training that's based very much on a human level. My book, again, is all about taking charge and using those 7 truths to be able to help people have those difficult conversations. My big idea is that taking charge isn't necessarily being in control. Taking charge is about honoring and recognizing everything that we bring into the room, whether we're sitting on the table as the side of the mediator or the negotiator or the arbitrator or somebody who's helping other people have a conversation, maybe in a parking lot for all it matters, it doesn't matter. But taking charge is about being aware of everything that we bring and being in control of that and being willing to say, I'm here, I'm ready, and let's move forward. Thank you very much.
Well done, Suzanne.
Thanks.
So my question for you is, this is one of the many topics that you've done through BrainJacks. What are some of the other things that you've been working on?
One of the other ones, all of my training is accredited through the Financial Planning Standards Council, Alberta Insurance Council, the Canadian Association of Mortgage Professionals, and it's all about having those difficult conversations and using the models that we learn, whether it's through ADRIC or any other training program with ADRIC, Royal Roads, or anywhere else, and using those models to be able to help parties manage those difficult conversations. So everything at the end of the day comes down to those difficult conversations.
Fantastic.